Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. So, I was asked a question, not by more than one. I mean, by more than one person. This exact same question, and one of them was actually in my comments. So, the question that was asked to me was, why me personally? Why I don't agree with the Quran was created, right? To each their own. To you, that whatever your opinion is, whatever my opinion, or we're gonna take the word opinion out and just say whatever you go with, whatever I go with, the Dalil, that's on to each and every person. One thing that I want to make clear for myself personally. If you believe in Allah Ta'ala and you believe in His Messenger, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right? And you deal with the 5 pillars, at least believe in the 5 pillars with the best of your ability. Your Shahada, your Salah, your fasting, your 5 pillars. To me, you Muslim. Okay? To me, you Muslim. So, I'm going to always treat you as such, even if you don't agree with what I say. It don't even matter if I agree with you or not. Because to me, the basis of you being Muslim, to me, is you believe in Allah, His Messenger, right? And you deal with the 5 pillars to the best of your ability, or at least you know that they will. Whether you pray or not, whether you fast or not, those things is between you and Allah. To me, for me, you Muslim. I'm not even finna delve into your world enough to start even looking to see if I can take you out of the fold of Islam. Now, some of the systematic beliefs that you may have, that's on you. I'm not going to be the one to differ and pick and choose how I'm going to treat somebody. You're a Muslim to me. Now, when it comes to these difference of thoughts and where they came from, sometimes, man, to be honest with you, we really need to know what's Dalil, what's real Dalil, and how to stick to Dalil. So, of course, you have your proof and evidence. The Quran is where you start, right? Then hadiths, the Sunnah, is where you go to after that. Then after that, there's ijma. Then you go to look into ijma, and then some add qiyas. When it comes to fiqh and different things, I understand. And qiyas, some people refer to it as like intellectual reasoning, being analytical, but you understand what qiyas is. Taking a look at the situation intellectually, right? But sometimes the problem is when individuals fall into qiyas and they leave the first 3 steps out. You understand? They leave the Quran out, they leave the Sunnah out, and the ijma. And they come up, and sometimes certain people that I've come across, they use qiyas from their own intellect, not qiyas from Quran, Sunnah, and ijma. And then a lot of times with using qiyas from your own intellect, a lot of times it's based off of your desires, how you feel, and then it might be tied to the Islamic personality that you consider to be sound. Your favorite speaker, your favorite scholar, which nothing is wrong with that right? But sometimes, like, I'm going to tell you a statement where I've seen people do qiyas and say certain things like, well, you ain't really got to dig into tafsirs and hadiths in order to be a good Muslim. Or you ain't got to do all this and that in order to be a good Muslim. But you can take yourself out of the fold of Islam. Now, or, like, let's just give an example. Your 5 pillars. It's 5 pillars. Let's say you don't pray. Let's say you don't fast. Let's say you don't pay zakat. And let's say you can afford to go to Hajj or Umrah and you don't go. But you may be a good person to some people by showing them kindness. When you see them in a grocery store, you know, hey, hi, how you doing? And then you say, I ain't got to do all of that to be a good Muslim. You have to understand, when you excluding all that, do that make you a good Muslim? We not even going to speak into the other things that you may fall into. You may have a girlfriend. You may have a boyfriend. And I'm just speaking off examples that I think. But the individuals do qiyas. Oh, well, I love Allah. Allah knows my heart. They're going and trying to do an intellectual reasoning from their own intelligence. And they're leaving out Quran, Sunnah, Ijma. So just because you feel like you're a good person, that doesn't mean you're a good Muslim. You just possibly a Muslim that's a good person. Now, I'm not going to be one of those type of individuals that say you ain't a Muslim, you ain't worthy of salams and this and that. So, to get to the question where they asking me, why do I feel like the Quran isn't created? Why I don't agree with it? But the ones who feel that way or say that way, that I'm not going to hate you. I'm not going to sit down and say I'm not going to salam you. So, just for me, first we could just start, and because I don't want this video to get long, but we'll just start with Quran al-Kareem. And I'm going to use the noble. But it really ain't about it don't matter which Quran you use, because it's all about the Arabic. I can just use this one. And this is Warsh. Sometimes I like to look at the words from all the qira'ats to see if it's changed in grammar, but that's neither here nor there. But there's individuals that I know listen to my videos that they not into the Arabic at this point. So anyway, I'm gonna use the Noble Quran, right? So just for my Dalil, if you just start, we're gonna go to simple. Start off in the first two, the second chapter, Surah Al-Baqarah, and if you go to ayat number 75, right? Chapter 2, ayat 75. So before we even do the qiyas or go into this person said from the second generation, the third, or later on down the line, or the scholar I listen to now, let's start with the Quran al-Kareem first and foremost, just on a general level, right? If you go to ayat number 75, which is something real simple in the English. So it say, do you, faithful believers, covet that they will believe in your religion in spite of the fact that a party of them used to hear the word of Allah, right? Or being that it's more than just one word. So in English, we just gonna put an S on it, plural. they used to hear the words of Allah. Then you could take those words and then you could put them in as a speech, because it's whole entire wahi. So this is referring to, specifically it was referring to the Jews who had what? The Torah. Not this corrupted book that they have right now, or some individuals who still deal with the Christianity. They feel that the Old Testament is the Torah. So just for the sake of this conversation, we're going to say that this is referring to what they consider today, well, what the skeleton. Well, what they have now is the skeleton. This is what was the original Torah, or the original Old Testament, for the people who want to believe that way, right? So when you go to the Arabic, it used the word kalama, not kalima, kalama. And keep in mind, this is a plural, because it's not just one word, right? So you can refer to this as, because you're bringing it to an English language. So speech, even if you want to say conversation, the talking, speech is fair, right? So they used to hear the words of Allah. Now this is the beauty of it for those who still stuck on the Old Testament and feel like it's considered to be the word or words, the speech or the revelation of Allah. It says they used to hear the words of Allah, right? Then they used to change it. They used to change it knowingly. But this is the key part. It said they would change it knowingly after they understood it. So what was their intentions on changing it? So that Torah, that Old Testament, these individuals went and changed it with their hands and put in it what they wanted in it. So right now today you have a version of what they changed it to. Now once what they changed it to, that's no longer the words of Allah. What they've changed it to. Now, not to really get too deep into that, when you go to the Arabic, it says kalama Allahi. So when they put the kasra at the end of Allah, it's possessive. It belongs to Allah. These words, this speech, this conversation, this revelation, what was revealed came from Allah. So if that was Allah's speech, how can Quran al-Kareem not be Allah's speech? So a lot of people who fall into this bickering beef about Quran al-Kareem, but Quran al-Kareem was created, but that Torah, that Injil was the speech in the book of Allah. That don't make any sense. Y'all done fell into bickering beef about the Quran as opposed to getting to what's inside of it. If you sitting around having an argument over whether the Quran was created or the speech based off of some qiyas, because it's definitely not from Quran, it's definitely not in hadiths, and it's definitely not from ijma' of the Prophet's companions, or to those who they taught, and then to the ones that they taught. But so this version of Qiyas that y'all going off of, this intellectual reasoning, these 3 steps have been skipped. This right here, if those things, if Allah Azza wa Jal Al-Muqtadir Al-Alim is telling us in the book in the Arabic language using the term Kalama Alahi, this is Allah's speech, words, wahi, revelation, whatever you want to call it, referring to the books that came before Quran al-Kareem. So is Quran al-Kareem not worthy of such a title? But this isn't, and like I said, we're using Dalil now. Let's start with Quran al-Kareem. Now, some would say the highest form of Dalil when it comes to the Quran al-Kareem, right, is how the Quran should be understood. Because you could take some words from the Quran and give them the wrong understanding. It happens all the time. So, when you want to go to how those ayats is supposed to be understood, where we did the book, the introduction into the sciences of the Quran, to get a better understanding, what was the situation that was going on when that ayat was revealed. This is a situation that was concerning the Jews and the things that they did, and changing the book, where he's just, even saying to the Rasul, do you covet that they will believe in your religion in spite of the fact that a party of them used to hear the words of Allah? Not only hear it, it says it's in by saying not only did they hear it, they understood it. They understood the speech of Allah, the words of Allah. They understood it, and they still changed it. So then you can come in and take it a little bit deeper and look at this ayat and say, what you think they gonna do to this deen? And when you take a look at it, you will see some in that time, and I'm not trying to make like this a bash against Jewish people or any of that or any other type of people. But you can look at hadiths and look at some of the history. Some of them accepted Islam, and then they started trying to change things and cause fitna. The same type of stuff they did with their book. But Allah Azza wa Jal preserved Quran al-Kareem. So if it's referring to the books that came before the Quran as kalama Allahi in the Quran first. So when you look at that situation to get a better understanding, now you got to go and look at how the Rasul taught it to everybody else. And then how they taught it. Now, if 50 of them taught it this way, and then one of them disagreed and said, well, I'm doing some qiyas, and I feel like it means this and that based off of this. Cool. But that's not ijma. You feel that way. It wasn't taught that way. Allah didn't reveal it that way. And the majority of the companions didn't understand it that way. That's you. So that makes it what? Your opinion. Now, if you're able to spread that opinion onto other people, that's just what you done. But the buck stops with you. That's the opinion of you. You understand? So, just to go to Surah 9, you go to Surah 9, ayat number 6. The last one we just read was Surah 2, chapter 2, ayat number 75. Right? So now we're going to go to chapter 9, ayat number 6. And it says, and if any one of the mushriks, those who are up on shirk, a mushrik, those who believe in shirk, right? Right? Seek your protection, then grant it to them. So, right here, just to pause on that first little ayat, this is telling you how to deal with individuals that's up on shirk to some degree. This isn't a one-size-fit-all type of thing. But to some degree, it's teaching you how to deal with individuals that's up on shirk. What's the purposes of dealing with them with this type of kindness? The ayah give us the Dalil, right? If any one of the mushriks, the people that's up on shirk, regardless to what the type of shirk it is. You know what I'm saying? Because you had fire worshippers, you had Christians, you had all this plethora of shirkians, right? If they come to you seeking protection, then grant them protection so that they can hear the words, the speech, the revelations of Allah, referring to what? The Quran. And we also know, due to other Quran ayats, there's the Quran, Allah sent down the Quran, and the hikmah, which some translate, well, when you look at tafsirs, explain that hikmah is the sunnah. So with these words of Allah, the speech of Allah, referring to the Quran, but you don't exclude the hikmah that the Rasul is giving them, right? And then escort them to where they can be secure. That is because they are men who know not. They don't know any better. So treat them with a specific type of kindness, because the good treatment is going to allow them to absorb the speech of Allah, the hikmah of it, the prophet and messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he sent, because they don't know any better. So when you come to the Arabic, what does it say? Kalama Allahi. The words, the speech of Allah. Quran al-Kareem. So when Allah, the prophet and messenger that Allah sent in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you think he taught something that contradicted this? Of course he didn't. So when he went and taught this to his companions and the people of that whole entire region, and I'm saying this because for the ones who want to exclude particular Muslims who was around but they may not have a close relationship with the Rasul, oh, they was just a Muslim of that time, but they wasn't a companion. So I'm only saying it for the ones who come up with tricky methods to exclude those individuals. But all of the Muslims in that surrounding region and traveled and left and went other places, they wasn't taught that, and they wasn't taught to go teach that. So if somebody, particular one person, sat down and said, well, you know what? I don't agree with that because It's impossible for Allah to have speech. Because I did qiyas on another ayat, so I don't agree with that, and now I'm going to go teach something different. Again, that's you, because that's not what Allah said, that's not what His messenger taught, and that's not what the majority of His companions and the Salaf taught. So there's not ijma from the righteous ones on those statements. Now, after these people, in certain regions, they may become the majority of the people in that area. So with some of the trickery of the manipulations of words that's used in these particular sciences in Islam, in that particular region, they may feel like they have ijma. Because in this particular region, they have ijma, consensus on this statement, because they are the majority in that particular area. But do that mean that it's ijma from the people that the Rasul taught directly? No. So some of them can get tricky with words and say things like this. Well, the majority of the scholars believe. The majority of the scholars where? But some of us don't know how to ask these questions or know how to go look into it. Yeah, the majority of the scholars in that particular region that believes that qiyas that didn't come from Quran, Sunnah, or Ijma. And that's just the reality of it. So for me, I'm not going to have nothing against you. I'm just going to say, for the sake of Islam, you still my Muslim brother or my Muslim sister. So up on that particular statement, let's just agree to disagree and move on. Let's agree to disagree and move on. Now, let me give y'all a little bit of Islam behind this. This ayat that I just read told you to treat. We know from this ayat where Allah is telling the Rasul to treat mushriks, people that's up on shirk, with a particular type of way. These people who up on shirk. So you telling me Quran says treat people up on shirk a particular type of way. The Rasul taught individuals how to deal with people up on shirk a particular type of way. You think because you don't agree with a particular statement from somebody that's a Muslim that's not up on shirk, I'm supposed to treat them worse? Or they supposed to treat me worse? So like we say, that goes against that. Those type of actions totally contradict Quran, Sunnah, and Ijma. So I don't care what your group say about how I'm supposed to treat somebody they consider an innovator or a deviant, whether you refer to yourself as Salafi, Sunni, Shia, Ashari, Hanafi, Shafi'i, Maliki, or Maliki, however you want to pronounce it, or Hanbali, or some of the madhabs that came before them. Whatever label you put on yourself, even if you say, I'm just Muslim without all those titles, but because you don't want this, I can treat you worse than Allah said to treat a mushrik. So individuals need to, I don't want to say that with disdain, because including myself, I don't want it. I don't want that to come off with an insulting tone, where people become argumentative. So I put it this way: let's start with real Dalil first. For me and my understanding, why I disagree with it, I'm starting with Quran first, not with my own understanding. You could go look at the tafsirs. I done looked in the tafsir Qurtubi. I done looked in the tafsir Sahdi. I done looked in the tafsir Ibn Kathir. I didn't look in Jalalain, because Jalalain is not that detailed. These just a particular set of tafsirs that I have. And I looked at the Arabic. And all of them agree with these particular statements. So now I didn't see where Allah said this was created. Now, am I saying that it's human speech and all these other things that people want to try to throw on it to dilute the message? Or need I say changing it with their hands? Kind of like what Allah warned against. You're going to take Allah's speech that's easy to understand and then change it? Just like it said in the ayah, we're supposed to be the opposite of those type of individuals. Quit changing it. Now, I'm not sitting up saying it's a human speech. I'm not throwing any of that on there. Let's not put any sauce or butter on it. No condiments. Leave it exactly how Allah said it. Now, if you want to go try to change kalamah and all these little trickery things that some people do, and I'm going to tell you another point of some of their trickiness that they do with people. One, some of them can't even read Arabic. So they'll go look at what it say in English, talking to some more people who can't read any Arabic, even just the Alif Ba Ta. Even if you know Alif Ba Ta, you can look at these letters and then look them up in a dictionary or Google Arabic speech. They will mistranslate the English and say, oh, well, this word really meant created. The Arabic is in there. Or they'll change, oh, well, this word really means power. Or this word really means that. Or it can be interpreted this way. But when you go look at the Arabic, you could clearly say, nah, not in this case. Not in this case. Or, yeah, that's what that word meant in Farsi. But that's not what it means in Fusha. Yeah, that may have been what it meant in one of those dialects. But that's not what it means in Fusha. And that's not what it means in the Sharia. Point blank, period. So even if you want to put a different definition on what it can possibly mean, let's show you the beauty of this deen. Show me one instance where the messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, taught it with the definition that you say it means. You're not going to find it. You're not going to find it. You're not even going to find where the majority of his companions or the people of that generation who was around, who may not have a relationship with the Rasul, maybe just came to Jumu'ah, came to the masjid and prayed and caught the kutbar. But they didn't, come over his house for bread and meats and dates and yogurts. He may have never came over their house. There was nothing between them more than a assalamu alaikum wa alaikum assalam. But they was in that region. So where did the majority of them teach it with the definition that you put on it? You're not going to find it. And if you do find it, then that's going to be the understanding that we all have. Or at least that we should have. Not somebody else who did qiyas based off of the way they felt like they understood something. So I'm not trying to prove anybody wrong. I'm not trying to belittle or put anybody down. Because I was asked, and people could go look at my comments, a brother asked me in my comments why I don't agree that the Quran was created. I've done received a couple of messages asking why do I think the Quran is created or why I don't think the Quran is created. I'm starting with the Quran first, and as I'm talking, I still haven't left that. I ain't got to go bust down a whole bunch of hadiths. This is clear. This is clear. Now, if you want to throw some condiments on it, that's your business. That's your business. If you want to add some qiyas from an individual just because they was in the first, second, or third generation or fourth generations of Muslims, that's your business. And yeah, in particular regions, the majorities of the scholars might think that. Because in that particular region, the majority of them live a lifestyle based off of that statement that was on qiyas, where the qiyas was done skipping the first three things: Quran, Sunnah, and Ijma'. So, like I say, man, hopefully, regardless to how people feel, when I say, I just want to get along with everybody. Let's just agree to disagree. That's only one statement. We all believe in Allah. We all believe in His messenger. We all believe that the 5 pillars should be stood on, even if we have deficiencies in standing on them. That's enough for me. If the Quran is teaching that mushriks should be dealt with a certain level of respect, why not somebody else who's a non-mushrik and believes in Islam just because we might not agree on a particular statement? There's no need to beef and do whole conferences and arguments over a statement and then fall into slandering other scholars, saying they said things that they never said, only because you need to tear down that scholar because this particular group loves that scholar. There's no need to fall into all of that. Cool. You feel like the Quran was created? Alhamdulillah. Let's just agree to disagree. What do we agree on? You believe in Allah? I believe in Allah. You believe in His messenger? I believe in His messenger. You understand? You took shahada, I took shahada. You pray, I pray. You fast, I fast. You pay zakat, I pay zakat. We can afford Hajj, we'll make Hajj. Or we know that Hajj should be made if you can afford it. Collapse. Let's deal with each other with the respect and the rights that we have over each other. I'm not going to take away your rights because you may feel that the speech of Allah, that the Quran is the speech of Jibril. I'm even going to respect your intellectual property in saying that it's the speech of Jibril. I've never seen that in Arabic, but I'm going to respect that you feel that way. That's on you. Cool. You feel like it's the speech of Jibril? I disagree. Just like you disagree with what I feel. But we still have rights over each other. Now if you even if you come to me and start trying to tell me Noble Drew Ali is our prophet, Elijah Muhammad was our prophet, Farad Muhammad, or Farad, whichever one you want to go with. Farad Muhammad was Allah in person and the Mahdi and all these other things. I'm still going to treat you with a mutual respect, because the Quran says treat a mushrik, somebody that's up on shirk, with a particular type of respect. And you're not going to force me to do anything different until you can start with Quran saying deal with them a certain way. Not saying deal with them in a certain type of way under certain circumstances where they call themselves trying to cut my head off. Because now we've entered into different rules of engagement. Hear me all the way. Now at that particular point, when it comes to the mushriks, at that particular point, we done entered into different rules of engagement. So until we enter into different rules of engagement, I'm going to engage them accordingly. Just like as the way you feel as on whatever you say about the Quran, whatever you say about this, or whether you say Noble Drew Ali is our prophet or Elijah Muhammad this and that, I'm going to engage you accordingly. Hear me all the way. I'm going to engage you accordingly to Quran, Sunnah, Ijma, and depending on the circumstances, possibly some Qiyas. Possibly. All depending on the rules of engagement. So, Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. And anything I said that was a mistake or incorrect, that came from myself and the shaitan. Anything that I said that was correct came from Allah Azza wa Jal Al-Alim. So again, I'm here to get along, man. You know what I'm saying? Regardless to some of my beliefs, I'm not going to put it on anybody else. According to some of the beliefs and the understandings that I came from Islam, I'm not forcing that on you. I still have rights over you until you can show me otherwise. So I'm not here attacking. I'm not here to belittle. I'm speaking on the truth that I stand on. Engage me how I engage you until the rules of engagement turn into something different. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.